This is Nightly Business Report with Tyler Matheson and Sue Herrera.
Oops, it happened again. In the face of scathing criticism following a data breach that may have impacted more than 140 million people, the credit reporting agency Equifax gets hit with another embarrassing website issue.
In the bank, JP Morgan and Citi post their quarterly report cards as the first of the big banks to report. Will their numbers set the tone for one of the biggest sectors of the economy?
And first of its kind, an FDA panel gives its stamp of approval for a gene therapy treatment here in the U.S. All that and more on Nightly Business Report for Thursday, October 12th.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's been quite a few weeks for credit reporting agency Equifax. Last month, the company revealed it had been hacked, potentially compromising the data of 145 million people. Since then, the CEO stepped down and apologized. Several other executives also left. There are investigations by federal and state agencies, including the Department of Justice. Now, today, the company said it was looking into a possible second breach, but later in the day reversed course, kind of. Instead, putting the issue on a third-party vendor. Andrea Day explains.
It comes just 1 month after the credit giant disclosed a hack that compromised sensitive information of more than 145 million people. Then today, Equifax taking one of its consumer web pages offline, the same page people use to dispute issues in their credit report. This is all after an independent security analyst discovered that Equifax's credit report assistant link contained malware. According to the tech news website Ars Technica, visitors were being tricked into installing fake Adobe Flash updates, and those updates could infect computers. This evening, Equifax saying, quote, "Despite early media reports, Equifax can confirm that its systems were not compromised and that the reported issue did not affect our consumer online dispute portal. The issue involves a third-party vendor that Equifax uses to collect website performance data, and that vendor's code running on an Equifax website was serving malicious content. Since we learned of the issue, the vendor's code was removed from the web page, and we have taken the web page offline to conduct further analysis." So how is this different from the last attack? Well, this one apparently didn't steal any sensitive data from the agency, like birth dates, socials, and names. But it could compromise your computer. No word yet as to when that web page will be back online. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Andrea Day.
Along the same lines, Hyatt said it discovered a credit card breach at 41 of its properties around the world. It is the second breach in 2 years at Hyatt.
We're angry. That's what Facebook Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg said about potential abuse of the company's platform. So, with ongoing questions about the role that Facebook ads played in the election last year, Sandberg finally broke her silence. Julia Borston has the details.
After meeting with leaders of the House Intelligence Committee yesterday, Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg sat down with Axios' Mike Allen to discuss the Russian purchase of ads on Facebook to influence the election. Sandberg saying Facebook is cooperating fully and wants Congress to release the ads and owes the American people an apology.
Certainly anytime there's abuse on our system, foreign interference on our system, we are upset. And it's not just that we apologize. We're angry, we're upset. But what we really owe the American people is determination. We're determined. These are threats, these are challenges, but we will do everything we can to defeat them because our values are worth defending.
Sandberg saying Facebook is investing in artificial intelligence to go after fake accounts and hiring 4,000 people to oversee ads and content. But as Sandberg stressed that they want to crack down on abuse, she also said they want to maintain free speech on Facebook.
I think they are going to try to do a good job to fix some of these actual problems and then also the PR problems, but I think it's probably much harder than they or anyone else kind of expects it'll be.
Now investors are weighing whether this controversy and how Facebook manages the needs of its advertisers and users will impact the platform's bottom line.
The question is, what are the advertisers going to do in this? And if they get attacked politically, are the advertisers going to pull out? And that will, in fact, be the determinant in affecting their market value and, in fact, their growth platform.
And many are asking whether Facebook and the other platforms such as Google and Twitter will come up with policies to govern themselves or will draw more regulation around the likes of political advertising. Facebook representatives are expected to return to D.C. to testify on November 1st, though we don't expect Sandberg there, as Facebook earnings are the same day. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Julia Borston in Los Angeles.
In Washington, President Trump signed an executive order which he says would promote healthcare choice and competition by making lower-cost plans more readily available. This is the first step in the president's promise to loosen regulations under the Affordable Health Care Act. Bertha Coombs takes a look tonight.
Noam Wolf welcomes any efforts to lower health insurance costs for his small business, a restaurant supplier startup in New York City.
Reducing prices is just one side of the coin. The flip side of the coin is that actually reducing prices may lead to worse plans.
President Trump says his executive order will help usher in more affordable insurance choices.
The competition will be staggering. Insurance companies will be fighting to get every single person signed up.
The order paves the way for small business groups to buy coverage through association plans across state lines, like large self-insured employers do.
There are certain state mandates that are required under the insured plans that a self-insured plan does not have to comply with, and that are built into those insured plans. And so that in itself would help to bring down the cost for those programs.
It would also allow more businesses to fund health reimbursement accounts, or HRAs, to help employees pay premiums. And for individuals, it would allow them to buy short-term coverage for more than the 3-month limit imposed by the Obama administration. Supporters say this gives healthy people the choice to buy only the coverage they need, while critics charge that it'll undermine the exchanges. Actuaries say it will likely split the market. The proposed changes won't affect plans starting January 1st. Administration officials say it will take a few months to draw up the rules and allow for public comment. Insurers so far have been cool to the announcement. The major industry lobbies say long-term market stabilization efforts are what's needed now. For Noam Wolf, ultimately, lower price isn't worth it if it means a lot less coverage.
If you just have, slightly lower prices, you might get all kind of garbage plans out there.
Bertha Coombs, Nightly Business Report, New York.
On to earnings now, where the ball is rolling as two of the nation's biggest banks reported their results. Both of them beat Wall Street estimates, but investors seemingly wanted more. JP Morgan's earnings beat targets by 11 cents a share on $26 billion in revenue for the quarter, but the bank's fixed income trading did fall 27%. Citi, meantime, beat by a dime, and its $18 billion revenue target beat estimates as well. The concern there was the company's credit costs, which rose. All in all, both stocks fell. Citi was down more than 3%.
So let's turn now to Fred Cannon for more analysis on those bank earnings and also what we can expect tomorrow from Wells Fargo and Bank of America when they report their results. And he is Director of Research at Keefe, Bruyette & Woods. Welcome. Nice to have you here, Fred.
Great to be on. Thanks.
Let's start, first of all, with Citi and JP Morgan. I know that in general you were looking for a somewhat the anemic economic background to impact earnings this time around, but both of these banks managed to beat modestly.
Right, they very solid results. I mean, if you look at, well, maybe a few folks were disappointed the stock sold off a bit today. If you look across the board, given that trading was a little bit weak, the numbers were solid at both companies.
What was there to nitpick here, and why did the market get it wrong? I mean, and you're pretty favorable on these stocks going forward too, right?
We are. I don't think the market got it wrong. Remember, these stocks had a nice run coming into earnings, so it was a little bit of setback. Number one. Number two, I think that there was some nitpicking, especially around credit cards, and a little bit of a tick up in delinquency rates.
Now, Jamie Dimon came out and was talking basically about earnings and how the comparisons were going to be a factor in all bank results because of the comparisons compared to last quarter. Do you agree with that? Is that part of what's factored into their ability to beat the numbers?
That's part of it, but really I think what people are looking for, I think they pretty much got at JP Morgan. They got margin expansion and they got loan growth. I think at Citi we didn't quite have as much growth, and that's why that stock didn't perform quite as well today.
How about Wells and B of A? They come out tomorrow. Wells obviously has been in the spotlight with its various travails. B of A, a different set of circumstances. What are you looking for?
Well, first of all, loan growth is key. And one of the things is that J.P. Morgan really beat the federal numbers on loan growth. That means one of the other big banks probably won't. So we got to be a little cautious on Wells Fargo about that issue. B of A, we think will be solid. We're really looking for net interest margin. Can they keep the cost of deposits down and see earnings grow?
Well, we will see. Fred, thank you so much.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Fred Cannon with Keefe, Bruyette & Woods.
Well, those bank earnings did weigh on the market today. Investors also took in data that showed weekly unemployment claims dropped, and inflation numbers showed a run-up in gasoline prices following those hurricanes Harvey and Irma. Those together pushed producer prices higher in September, and stocks pulled back from record levels. The Dow lost 31 points to 22,841. NASDAQ dropped 12, and the S&P 500 slipped 4.
Amazon said it will hire 120,000 additional workers for the upcoming holiday shopping season. That's pretty much on par with last year. Amazon is the latest retailer being cautious about their hiring plans, in part because of the stronger job market. But those holiday hires serve as a backdrop to an industry that has shed tens of thousands of jobs this year alone. So what is happening with all of those laid-off retail workers? Well, Courtney Reagan takes a look.
As retailers close stores, jobs are disappearing with the liquidation sales. The U.S. will end the year with more than 2,700 fewer stores this year than last, and that's even accounting for offsetting store openings. The number of people working in retail peaked in January and has been declining since, with more than 107,000 retail jobs lost in the first 9 months of this year. Some retailers do offer employees positions at other still open stores. But while online divisions of retailers are growing, with more abundant jobs in warehouses and distribution centers, few store sales associates move into those roles. The skill set is a mismatch. Those jobs are closer to an assembly line or operations skill than sales and working directly with customers. Plus, many retailers' warehouses aren't located near their closing stores. ZipRecruiter says more former retail workers are looking to cross over into completely different industries.
There's almost a shift of these people from retail into sales, customer service, business services, food and beverage.
The employees that we spoke to at this Giggle Baby store aren't sure what their next move is going to be when this store closes. Other former retail workers that I talked to are all doing something different. One woman worked at a family Christian bookstore for over a decade, but decided not to get another part-time job to supplement her teaching income when that store closed. Only one of her former colleagues works in retail. Another works for an insurance company, and another started a nonprofit.
Labor economists caution other industries to pay attention to what's happening in retail because of the spillover effects. With more retail workers vying for non-retail jobs, competition increases for open roles. And with more available candidates willing to work, it makes it harder for wages to grow. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Courtney Reagan in New York City.
Coming up, a Food and Drug Administration panel gives the green light for the gene therapy treatment here in the U.S. We'll tell you what it means.
Bitcoin, the controversial cryptocurrency, soared to an all-time high today, a confluence of speculation helping to drive up the price. First, reports have surfaced that China may reverse its ban and allow trading in Bitcoin to resume. Also, there have been recent reports that Goldman Sachs may explore trading that currency. All of this helped push Bitcoin past its high of 5,000. To put that into perspective, that is worth 4 times as much as an ounce of gold. So, for those of you saying, what exactly is Bitcoin? Here's a quick explainer.
What is Bitcoin? It's a payment system that uses completely virtual money for online transactions. The digital currency is called a Bitcoin. It's like cash for the internet, transferred between people via mobile app or a computer program. Users request and send Bitcoins to pay for goods and services, but the identities of users and the transactions are kept anonymous through complicated encryptions. And unlike real money, Bitcoin has no centralized bank or authority that runs the system. Instead, it operates on an open-source platform that can be accessed by anyone, and it's controlled by the people who use it, and, ultimately, the power of supply and demand. Which brings us to the value of a Bitcoin. Since its creation in 2009, it's fluctuated dramatically, from pennies to now over $5,000.
Campbell Harvey joins us now to talk more about Bitcoin and the risks when it comes to your money. He's a professor of finance at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business. Welcome, Professor. You're going to have to walk me through this like a freshman in an economics class. If I wanted to buy some Bitcoin, how would I do it? How would I pay for it? Where would my money go? And what would I see for it? What would I get?
Well, there's many ways to buy, but a common way is to go to a firm like Coinbase, and they have over 10 million customers. And you can do a wire transfer of regular US dollars and buy from them Bitcoin. You could use a credit card also, but you have to actually exchange the dollars into Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency.
A lot of people, Professor, point to the anonymity of Bitcoin, and as a result of that, it is sometimes used for nefarious purposes. You know, I guess you could make that argument for other currencies as well, but what do you make of that?
Well, it's actually false. So it's a myth that Bitcoin is anonymous. And let me explain it this way, that when you receive a payment, it's anonymous until you start spending. And when you start spending, then probabilistically, we can figure out who the spender is. There are other cryptocurrencies like Zcash. That's anonymous. Bitcoin is not anonymous. It is a terrible technology for a criminal to use because every single transaction is recorded and cannot be altered in this ledger called the blockchain. So it would be the last choice of a criminal, but the criminals don't understand it. Yeah. They don't get it. They don't understand this is not anonymous.
So in typical, I mean, obviously a dollar isn't worth anything unless people believe it's worth something. But who controls the supply of Bitcoin, and is that supply fixed or not?
So Bitcoin is a computer program. It's a program anybody can download, and it's got various parameters in the program. And one of the parameters is that the Bitcoin supply goes up by 12.5 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. And then after a couple of years, that's cut in half, and it's cut in half again, until you reach 21 million Bitcoin, and then it stops. There's no new Bitcoin. So it is fundamentally just an algorithm, a rule, and it's effectively a deflationary. The other thing that's important is one Bitcoin is divisible not by 100 units, like a dollar into cents, but into 100 million units.
So obviously this, from what I'm gleaning, is not for the everyday investor. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I totally agree with that. It's difficult to understand. It is wildly volatile. So it is 5 times the volatility of the S&P 500. It is a new technology. And I do worry that there's a lot of bandwagon speculators. It's going up, so let's pile into Bitcoin. The capitalization is $88 billion, which is substantial. That's more than the capitalization of all the gold ETFs and gold mining ETFs. Wow. So it's substantial, but it's still small.
Campbell, we have to leave it there. I wanted to ask you whether Coach Krzyzewski would like to be paid in Bitcoin. That'll be for another conversation. Campbell Harvey at Duke.
Thank you.
Sales growth slows at Domino's. That's where we begin tonight's market focus. The pizza chain reported a rise in same-store sales, but the results weren't as strong as compared to a year ago. So the company said stronger demand in the U.S. led to total revenue and profit that beat expectations. Domino's shares finished the day, though, down nearly 4% to 201.03. Tesla recalling 11,000 Model X SUVs. on concerns that the back seats could fall forward during a crash. This is the second time Tesla has issued a recall for that model due to seat latch problems. Shares finished slightly higher, 355.68.
And investment management firm Eaton Vance will raise its quarterly dividend 11% to 31 cents a share. The yield now just under 2.5%. Shares of Eaton Vance were up 23 cents to $50.57. And the drug maker Baxter said revenue for the fourth quarter will take a hit following the impact from Hurricane Maria on its Puerto Rico facilities. The company said it will provide a clearer outlook for the quarter later this month. In the meantime, the company said it's working with its manufacturing sites in other countries as well as the FDA to support the supply of product in the U.S. Baxter shares up fractionally, 62.53.
A Food and Drug Administration panel voted unanimously to endorse a gene therapy treatment for a childhood form of blindness. If the agency approves that treatment, it would be the first of its kind here in the United States. Spark Pharmaceuticals makes the drug, and the stock was halted all day, but spiked when it opened after hours, and it's up more than 70% so far this year. Some of the other smaller companies in the field are Bluebird Bio, Voyager Therapeutics, and Regenex Bio. Meg Terrell joins us now with more. This is the most amazing story.
It's a really incredible story, and it's actually really a milestone in the field of medicine. Gene therapy represents a whole new way to treat disease. Rather than taking a pill or an injection every day or every week, gene therapy is designed to be a one-time remedy. It uses a virus to deliver a healthy copy of a gene to make up for one that causes disease. Now, Spark Therapeutics could bring the first gene therapy to the U.S. market if the FDA agrees with its panel of outside advisors and approves the drug. The panel voted 16-0 today that the medicine has a favorable benefit-risk profile. Now, it's designed to treat a rare inherited form of blindness, in some cases known as Leber congenital amaurosis. There are no approved treatments for it now, and people with the condition eventually lose their sight. People who participated in the clinical trial told the FDA panel today how much of a difference they felt after taking the treatment, with one person saying that before it was like she was wearing sunglasses and looking through a tunnel, whereas afterwards she could make out the stars for the first time. And we visited two siblings last year who participated in the trial. Here's Caroline Carper sharing her experience.
Before, I couldn't see snow when it was like the little snowflakes when they were falling. And then I went outside when it was snowing, and I was like, oh, I can see the snowflakes.
Really? What
Yeah.
did that feel like?
It was really cool, like to actually see something that I'd never seen in my life before.
So the FDA is set to make its decision on this drug by mid-January.
Look forward to that very much, Meg. It's a one-time treatment. How long does it last? Is there a time frame on
That's
that?
a really important scientific question for gene therapy. Because the first patients were only treated a few years ago, they just don't know how long this will last. They're going to follow these patients for a long time. So far, they hope, and for Caroline and Cole, it's been pretty durable for them.
What else could gene therapy treat, and how much does it cost?
Well, those are two really great questions, and this is a huge field now. A lot of companies are getting into it. Diseases like hemophilia are being targeted by a number of companies, big and small. Pfizer is in the space. They have a partnership with Spark, actually, and you showed a few other companies there. Voyager Therapeutics is working on diseases in the brain, so the applications are potentially very broad, but it could be costly, up to $1 million, guys.
Oh, you have the best news beat there is.
I really do.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank
We
you.
so appreciate it, Meg.
And coming up, we're going to take you to the Swiss Alps and a home that puts the Ritz in San Moritz. Well, referring to the California gold rush, one of the most famous lines came from a Mark Twain novel, "There's gold in them thar hills." Well, in Switzerland, it's not exactly the hills, but rather the sewers. A study out this week shows that more than $3 million worth of gold and silver are found every year in the country's sewage system. The metals are byproducts from chemicals and products like paints, alloys, electronic components like watches, which accumulate in the sludge from treatment plants. But recycling would not be economically viable. By the way, past researchers have put the amount flushed away every year here in the U.S. at around 13 million.
Well, as you probably know, Switzerland has long been seen as a tax haven for the super rich. Well, with that in mind, Robert Frank got an exclusive look inside that country's most expensive home, a mansion nestled high in the luxury alpine resort town of St. Moritz.
St. Moritz is the winter playground of the world's rich and famous. And nestled in this snowy paradise is the most expensive estate for sale in all of Switzerland. This home actually has 7 levels, and most of them are hidden in the rocks below. The stairway leads to a heavenly grand reception area. On one side, these 35-foot windows frame the Swiss Alps. On the other, an entire wall that's about as lavish as we've ever seen.
This is actually floor-to-ceiling mink.
But if you prefer pampering, then the mega home's wellness level is your private paradise.
It really rivals some of the finest spas in the best hotels in the world.
You can inhale the healing powers of Himalayan salt in a room lined in glowing rock. Get an out-of-this-world steam in a modern hammam that looks more like a spaceship. Or chill out big time in a sub-zero ice chamber. But the showstopper down here is this subterranean lake. The glimmering pool is lined with Swarovski crystal lights that flow through every color of the spectrum. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Robert Frank.
Homey.
Yes, especially the mink walls.
Oh, that'll do it for us.
I'll buy it for you.
Thank you, dear. I'm Sue Herrera. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Tyler Matheson. Have a great evening, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Mink walk.